What is a Zelda life hack? Well, you know what a normal life hack is, right? All those little tips you see online that are interesting ways to make your day-to-day activities just a bit easier. So a Zelda life hack is the same idea. Like, for example, you ever just be minding your own business when a swarm of geese ambush you, making it pretty annoying to deal with? Well, you don't actually have to fight them at all. Just pull out stasis, freeze one of them, and the rest will leave you alone. So today, we're gonna be looking at 20 life hacks like this in Zelda Breath of the Wild. Little tips and neat tricks to make your day-to-day Zelda tasks just a bit easier. Disclaimer, this can all be done in the base game. No actual hacking is required. You ever have trouble dealing with these larger groups of enemies? Well, here's a way to use a boomerang as a large area of effect type weapon. So if you look up as far as you can, then throw your boomerang and immediately run forward to where you threw it, then you'll make the boomerang just continue to orbit around you as long as you stay in its circle. This is a great way to keep other enemies busy while you focus on one target, and just to do a bunch of consistent damage. So you've seen this situation before. You pull up to a rock formation that is clearly a Korok puzzle, but you have no idea where the missing rock is. Well, if you stand on the opposite side of the circle, then walk in a straight line directly through the gap in the rocks, then the missing rock piece will always be along that path. Don't you hate tediously picking off the fruit on trees one by one, and chopping down the whole tree can be equally as time consuming? So if you want to do this in a much quicker way, then all you'll need is simply an ice rod. Shoot it in the general area of the trees, and boom, all the fruits fall off instantly, allowing you to quickly gather up all the materials. And if you think these are interesting, just wait until we get into the super useful ones later in this video, like how to permanently stun enemies, or how to cancel all fall damage when attacking in the air. But for now, you ever just need a quick boost up in the air, whether it be for climbing or trying to get over this freezing river, for example? Well, all you'll need for this is 4 bundles of wood and some way to light it. Doing so will create an updraft in a pretty easy way with common materials. But let's take it one step further with this next hack. So, you ever find yourself needing to cross even bigger gaps or really high cliff sides? Well, you can try this instead. You need a bit more materials for this one. Basically, just drop down a bunch of spicy peppers or sun shrooms, either or is fine, then shoot one of them with a fire arrow to create an updraft. Use the draft to elevate yourself and the other peppers, in which you can shoot another fire arrow by using bullet time to create a new updraft that pulls you up even higher. Then just keep repeating this process and you can fly up very high with this method. Walking around in the desert kinda sucks. You always lose health from the heat, and you walk super slow in the sand. So if you see a metal box here, try picking it up and walking with it. You will actually move faster while using magnesis, and the box will give you shade so you don't take damage from the sun. You can do this with metal weapons too, but you have to be more precise where you stand because of the smaller shadow. Also, if you're liking this video so far and want to see more interesting stuff like this in the future, then let me know by subscribing. That would mean a lot. Thank you. Wind bombs are a decent way to get around Hyrule. However, they can be kinda tricky to set up, and you're gonna need a ledge to jump off of. So if you see a breakable box and want an easier way to achieve the wind bomb effect, then try this. Simply place a bomb down at one side of the box, then stand on the opposite side of the bomb. And once you detonate it, you'll just fly in the direction opposite of the bomb too, making it a lot easier to aim and use. Do you hate having to mount these sand seals? You know, you slowly sneak up on them, but they always see you and run away in the last second? Well, you can try this much more humane method out. Just simply throw a bomb at the seal, which will stun them for a bit, so you can then run over and mount the seal, no problem. Arrows. You're always gonna need arrows, but it can be a pain if you run out of them or if you just don't want to buy them in the shop. Well, you can try out this next life hack for infinite arrows. First, you're gonna have to go to the desert oasis, and you'll see this one pot by the food stands. Then, all you'll need is a multi-shot bow that you'll simply need to fire into the pot and continue to pick up the arrows you shot. Because, for some reason, when you shoot it here, you can pick up all 3 or 5 of your arrows, even though you only used 1. The torches in the Lost Woods work the same way too. By doing this, you can turn even 1 arrow into an infinite amount, essentially. You ever just been in a situation where you could have used a better weapon for the job? More specifically, the elemental weapons, because of how good they are? Well, if you want basically any of those elemental weapons, then head to this Colosseum here, southwest of Hyrule Field. On the lower row, you'll find 3 of the fire weapons, the middle row will have 3 types of ice ones, and finally, the top row will have 3 electric weapons. Boom, there you go, just kill the enemy and take your pick. The only thing that's missing is the elemental rods, but you can get all of them just northeast of Hyrule Field in these giant tree stumps where a Wizrobe will be carrying 1 of each. You'll find the fire, ice, and electric ones in these locations. Are you a completionist that needs to get every single chest in every single shrine, but you can't remember which shrines still have chests left in them? Well, you can try this next trick out. Basically, all you have to do is look at the shrine on your map, and if it has a chest icon next to it, then it's fully looted. But if there's no icon, then you haven't gotten all the treasure there and need to go back. Isn't it a pain to deal with these big enemies that have massive health bars? I'd say. So here's a way to take out essentially any enemy of your choice. You probably know that you can perform a sneak strike behind an enemy if they don't notice you. But did you know you can then walk on the opposite side of the enemy to perform another sneak strike once they get up? This is because the enemies will always turn 180 degrees from where you hit them with the sneak strike. Then you can just repeat this process indefinitely to take out any enemy of your choice with no risk of taking damage. Isn't it a pain just not having the right color chew jelly for the various armor upgrades and just other uses too? Wouldn't it just be simpler if you can change the color of the chew jelly? Well, if you didn't know, you can actually use the various elemental weapons or arrows on the chew jelly to change the colors. However, I have another way of doing it that requires no resources if you don't have these items. If you want the red ones, then all you have to do is simply drop some by a fire or even in Death Mountain. To get the white ones, you simply need to drop them into ice cold water. And the yellow ones were harder to think of, but I have a way of doing this too. I found out if you go to any of the electric base shrines, like the Hawa Koth shrine for example, love the shrine names by the way, you can just throw them on an electric object or current and they'll change that way too. The elemental weapons have some pretty powerful effects, but don't you hate how little time they last before having to recharge? Well, if you don't want to wait, like, at all, then you can just quick swap to another weapon, then immediately go back to the elemental one, in which you now have a full charge. This gives you, like, infinite charge for these weapons. Like, damn, this one's actually kinda overpowered now that I think of it. Rupees. Rupees is what makes the Zelda world go round. But don't you hate when you're low on rupees, or if you just can't afford something in a store? Well, here's a really good way to get a lot of rupees quick. First, you have to go to the Tabantha field in the northwest part of the map. And all you'll need is a bow and arrow to make things go a lot quicker. Then, if you keep running in a circle similar to this, you'll come across various animals that drop a lot of rare meats, like rhinos and moose. You're gonna want to collect a bunch of these. Once you're done, you're gonna want to cook 5 raw prime meat into a meat skewer that sells for 210 rupees. And do the same for the raw gourmet meats, but these skewers sell for 490 rupees. So just make a bunch of these meats and rake in the profits. Have you ever gotten in a situation like this? You're gliding until you run out of stamina, so you're just left in free fall, waiting for your imminent doom. Yup, we've all been there. Well, turns out you don't have to feel so helpless, because if you press the glide button right before hitting the ground, then you'll somehow avoid all fall damage from whatever fall. even with no stamina, and even without pulling out your glider. I found out this odd interaction is possible because even with no stamina, you can still pull out your glider and even glide for like half a second before dropping. It will only work one time though per glide. If you perform an attack in the air, you'll create a huge attack radius, which is great for damaging enemies. However, if you are high up, then you yourself will also take a lot of damage too. So here's a way to keep the strong power without taking any damage yourself. Basically, you're gonna want to perform the same air attack from a high distance, but when you get close to the ground, press your glider button and then immediately press your attack button to cancel the glide. Doing this will keep all of the power, but with none of the self-damage. You ever get caught in the rain and just want it to be over as soon as possible? Especially when you're stuck in like a field or something where there's no shelter, so you can't build a campfire either. Well, you can chop down a tree and then stasis it as it's falling. Then put down a campfire right under it. Now you can light it up because the tree log acts as a shelter for the fire. So you're good to rest until it stops raining. This is useful because normally trees don't provide any shelter, so you can't build a campfire under them. Do you hate having to fight these Hinox mini-bosses? They're not terribly difficult, but can still pose a challenge if you're not prepared. Well, here's a way to instantly win against the toughest version, the Black Hinox. You're gonna need any electric-based weapon. Simply swing it, and once you're mid-swing, go to your inventory and drop that item. Then immediately pick it up with magnesis. Now it should contain an electric charge, so just move it over to the Hinox's metal anklet, drop it right there, and boom! Now he'll be permanently stuck being electrocuted. Jeez, that's brutal. But very helpful since you are now free to hit him with no risk of him attacking. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you guys later.